seated for the omnipotent, irrepressible David Wake.
Yes, less sarcasm, please. I need some volunteers, some actors. 2M, 1F.
One there.
Well, Claire's got.
Why don't you have Claire?
Could I have Claire, Dave, and Chrissy? Seems like a hard guests. One of you has to play a male. And Dave has to play a male also. I'm giving you a script.
The script's in Margaret.
Yes.
Yeah. Give me the play.
I shall play Loretta. You play Flash.
Of course.
Who wants to be the man side? This
Is a Flash Gordon script.
It's a Flash book.
With my favourite line in film history.
I'll be a mad scientist. Who doesn't want to be a mad scientist?
Alright, I've got props.
Oh God.
More chaotic than you think.
It's my favourite line in film history.
We've only got 24 hours to bed.
I'll just build the plot.
That's why I love you. We're all that so here.
I thought it was 24.
I'm going to get you to do it twice.
So who's playing
Once
Flash
in the
here?
sky.
I'm Flash.
Right, okay. Flash!
Having done theatre directing, I know that you should actually be the other way around. Flash is over there. Only because the props are over here. What actually important about technology is what am I doing?
So it's Winston.
Oh, these are my
I was checking through my talk. I have a degree in software engineering. That's my background. I then did research in computer science in a project that was going to invent and discover the internet, but we didn't, for reasons that were useless. And then I'm a science fiction writer who writes about sort of technology. And I couldn't get my PowerPoint presentation to work this morning. We've lost most of its images. And this might go differently unplanned. Well, I wanted to talk about science fiction and computers. And the first thing to do is to recreate a documentary I couldn't find on YouTube. So here is a scene from a very, very well-known piece of science fiction. It's Flash Gordon. And there's a great Flash Gordon! Flash Gordon, Professor Zarkov and Dale Arthur are aboard a rocket ship flying over the planet Mongo.
I can hear Prince Voltac from up here.
Flash, I love you, but we only have 14 hours to save the Earth.
I better find a way to get down there as soon as possible.
Flash, use this anti-gravity belt.
Thanks, Professor.
And you better take a ray gun.
And how are you going to hold that?
And Flash, you better take a radio to keep in touch.
Jump out of the rocket ship. Take all a big round of applause. That was so much better than you should have done it. And the point to make about this, and I saw this in a documentary, which is what I was trying to recreate, is that this scene was done. And here is an anti-gravity belt. Right? Now we've no idea how an anti-gravity belt will work, not got a clue. But it might look like this. I mean, how do we know? This is a perfectly reasonable anti-gravity belt.
This is all about keeping you up.
You say that, I took the knob end off as well. This is a ray gun. Well, we don't know how a ray gun works. There are laser guns and so forth. But why wouldn't it look like that? Perfectly reasonable. And finally, Dale runs on with a radio. And that's the massive fail. But the one in the actual show is mahogany and a lot of curved top with knobs on it. It's just a complete failure of the imagination, isn't it? There's no reason why it can't be different. Why couldn't it look like look like this? That's a perfectly reasonable radio. This is a piece of wood. More about that later. But you can make a prop in science fiction look like anything if you're willing to make it out of wood and put some buttons on it, and then put the special effects and the sound effects on afterwards. And that's really my point: is you can predict the future with very simple props. Because science fiction really isn't about predicting the car. It's about predicting the traffic jam. That's really our job in a lot of ways. People say, oh, science fiction invented the satellite and the mobile phone, more about the mobile phone later. But it's not really. We're trying to warn society of the dangers that's coming. Although, there is one point to make about the radio. If in the 1930s they came on with this, they would know it was a radio. But if they came on with this, the audience might go, what? That's no sense. So there is that danger. This is what computers look like when science fiction sort of started. These big rotating tape machines, so long since I used one. They're all big things with flashing lights. When I was doing my iPhone book, I realised that artificial intelligence will not arrive in these big machines. I predicted that they would arrive in phones. I think I was spot on there. So here are the classic props from Star Trek. There's your ray gun, which you're well aware of, and you know, doesn't look that dissimilar from this one. What a ray gun's going to look like. You've got your tricorder, does typing things, buttons, and you've got your communicator. Very famously, the communicator with Star Trek inspired people to make mobile phones. So that's a genuine science fiction made that happen. We have the reality of today. So we have here the Qualcomm Tricorder X Prize winner 2017 Final Frontier Medical Devices. The way you do. Looks more like a photocopy. Tricorder photocopy. We've got lasers in the military. And we have, of course, mobile phones, which is a famous invention.
It's a bit of a camouflage fill there. Look, it's not invisible that you get big black guys.
They're quite big, aren't they?
You probably get to that shots out of it.
They're
Probably a lot more expensive than a gun.
Am I right in thinking that type of gun though, it's not for actually firing at target, it's for painting targets?
Yeah, it's
for
a designator, I
areas.
think. Although the designator we usually do for binoculars these days.
Yeah, I mean, a laser pointer is smaller than that, isn't it?
It's like, yeah, they didn't predict that lasers were going to be used mostly for cattle.
So let's look a little bit at Star Trek's various bits and pieces. Here it is Captain Kirk using a mobile phone for all intents and purposes. Of course, it's completely unrealistic because people don't use mobile phones like that. They hold them to their ear. But that's a spot-on prediction, isn't it? The size of the object is about right, the use of it, and the way it gets used. I searched like mad to find the Blake 7 equivalent of this. and they had a mobile phone, which was a very small device you held it to there, and then to talk, you held it to his throat.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
So they got the mobile phone right, they have not got a clue how to use
So
it.
the most thing they basically had wrist communicators for most of their time.
Not the Federation.
I know,
It was the
the
Federation was.
rebels did.
So Captain Cook predicted The Apprentice because it's The Apprentice that did, because it's why everyone holds the phones like that,
And then,
because they've got the speakerphone.
but it's all about technology, social trends. So they predicted, yes, exactly, they predicted the Apprentice. But you see them walking around like this, and it's kind of strange to see. It seems to me very unnatural.
I think it's coming since smartphone touchscreens, and when you put it into, you tend to accidentally press stuff. So I think people sometimes have started stop doing that so that they don't cheap dial stuff.
I prefer my old Kindle, because it's got a button, whereas I've got a touchscreen one, I can't hold it without going to the next page.
And then inherent danger with this that hasn't been particularly fast, like is I use the mobility suite. I'm a large lady and I always wear a high visibility jacket. But you see, young and coming has got two of these icon thingies so you can do this. I'd like to know how many traffic accidents we film people walking across the road and see the
Or mental problems.
Yeah.
I've got a slide later on about that.
That's why
So
scaffold poles are covered in foam rubber these days.
Yes, people crashing through, yeah.
I want to point out Star Cops.
Yay!
Star Cops. A box. A box was fantastic because a guy used it exactly how we use phones now. It's a mobile kind of device. It was voice controlled. They're now becoming voice controlled. He used to put it in his top pocket like this, and then just chat to it. The only thing they got wrong was only he had one. Whereas in real life, everybody is chatting to their phone.
It's basically an Amazon Echo.
It is.
Yeah,
That's
it's
where
a
it
soft,
comes
you know,
into play. So Star Trek did a few other things. This is your floppy disk, very famously.
Memory card.
Have you seen him using it though? He's got his computer, he takes a floppy disk out, puts another one, puts another one, puts a third one. What's he doing? From a computing point of view, it looks exciting, but you've only got like one bit of information on each floppy disk.
Do you not play Traveller, Old Style Traveller, where you could only run one program at a time on the ship? Life support or shooting the guns?
No. It's a Super Monkey Island. It's got 7 discs, and it's got to go through each one to eventually get it built in.
This is your CD, in Star Trek, the DVD. It's a storage device, yes, in one of the libraries. The most famous one is, of course, the pad. Why are you having a clipboard? It's 2254. Faster like Starship. Come on, that iPad's 240 years. So that's completely wrong. Oh, phew. So there's original Star Trek. What is that? That's an iPad, isn't it? With a device that you use.
Credit card.
Blake 7, I could not find this image, but there's an episode early on in the first season where Jenna has a little device. She's going around doing this with it. That's way ahead of its time. And then later on in the same episode, she has a clipboard with a pen and a code. Why? You've got the prop, you built it, use it. They didn't.
There's another Blake 7 one where they've basically got a kind of A4 sized sheet of perspex with like 2 circles and a triangle stuck to it. And they hand over, this is the Geological Survey report on planet 6 and 7. Now I say they have a lot of unobtainium. More compact language you have.
So oh yes, I think pad is a better name than tablet. And here's Captain Picard. This is where it really became kind of famous, and they were used all over the place. And then more, what we think of as tablet computers now. And here's another one. I mean, that looks exactly like a kid.
But the fact that they have one thing on each one though.
They still only had like each book looked like that, but it was still only one book. The concept of having all of the different titles and
But this is the
between
thing that
them
they get wrong. They want Picard to look busy. Why has he got so many tablet computers? It makes absolutely no sense.
So then my little Galaxy A6, I've got something like 200 books on my Kindle.
Well, it's nice to have at least two screens. Well, they've got multiple screens though when you're working.
Yeah,
You have
yeah.
multiple screens.
You know, you could get, I mean, I've got it here in terms of storage size. Here we go, that's my data stick.
Yeah.
This is my light work. All of the novels I've written, all of the plays I have written, all of the various bits of novels that I haven't published yet,
Tell you what you wrote.
all sorts of things I've edited, all of it on a thing the size that I could swallow. And I think that's wrong. They wanted to show him busy. That's the only, busy is this is busy, isn't it? A desk is full of rubbish. So they have to show it like this, which is nonsense. And then on Star Trek, they hand people jobs by giving them a tablet computer. There's a fantastic one in Voyager where the captain gives an order. It goes on one of these pads. It's given to Dakota, and he takes it to Malala, and then she takes it to somebody else. We go all the way down to the lower decks, and it's like the lower decks everything. And this object, whereas in reality, you press the communicator and email it. Done, isn't it? So that's what I'm trying to get at, is trying to predict the future with these funny little objects that could be anything. And yet, people get it wrong. This is Michael Okuda, who does the Okudograms for Star Trek, so you get all these fantastic displays. So that's your touchscreen technology comes in Star Trek just before it really. I mean, I'm not sure whether touchscreen technology existed at this time.
What's the date of that? It was in the 1990s. Yeah, no, it's been to around in 1990s.
Next Generation started in the 80s, though, late 80s.
I think, yeah, they could all exist.
Yeah, they
You
do.
had light pens and sometimes
We had loads of technology, but in some respects it became a thing that it didn't work properly. I mean, I did a computer game for light pens, and the light pen had, they were made in biros. And the company that made them bought biros, threw away the insides of the biros, put electronics in, took a cable to a tic-tac box, put the electronics in the tic-tac box, and then poured in the resin so you could make it run. Broke the tic-tac box through one run to make the light pen, a nice of my mate who worked in the factory. That's not true, that can't be true. And he went over to his drawer and pulled it open and he got out a bag of Tic-Tacs, a massive bag of Tic-Tacs. Do you want a green one or a bag of orange ones? That was their manufacture, and I think they made the prototype that way and could never work out how to do it differently. This had a calibration system in the electronics. We put an extra calibration system in the software side, and you could still get better results putting it at the light bulb rather than the screen. It's hopeless. So I don't count that as a light pen. That's an experiment, isn't it? A guinea pig. I've lost my trail. No idea what I'm up to. This is the LCAR's Library Computer Access Retrieval System, which is touchscreen technology. This was the original Enterprise, and those buttons there are the little rocker buttons, rocker switches. They're incredibly expensive, and they only had like 4 sets of them. So they'd shoot in the bridge, and then they had to go to the captain's quarters. They literally took the switches out and took them and put them in. So you can see the difference between push-button technology and the new LCAR. It's very interesting to compare it. This is Boeing's space capsule, the Starliner, the CST-100. Look at it, all old school buttons and such like. Now you compare it with SpaceX, touchscreen technology. So Boeing's attempts to get the NASA contract, that's old tech Enterprise, and that's new enterprise.
Basically what this is saying is that science fiction predicted that we would invent faster than light travel before we invented the working touchscreen.
Yeah.
Yes. This is coming on to HAL 9000, which is my excuse to do talk about voice control, which is my utter shame to you all that I forgot to bring a prop. It didn't make the list. I didn't even think about going to the kitchen to bring it along. This is my kitchen, my version of HAL. And there's our Alexa in there. And if you say to that thing, computer, open the pod bay doors, it will reply and say, I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that. I'm not HAL and I'm not in space. This is a measure of where artificial intelligence has got to, because I am called Dave, so it correctly identifies with its Dave that you need to talk to. But it then says I am not HAL, and you're thinking, well, you have no idea what you look like. None at all.
Going on my laptop, with that you boot it up, it will say, or go up with HAL, and it will say, good evening, Dave. Everything's running smoothly.
Of course, because I'm a Star Trek fan, I have to change the wake word to computer. So we can say computer, that's all. Unfortunately, when we're sitting at our table, we're not allowed to use the word computer. Because it will wake up and listen to us. So we've changed computer to C word. So we'll drop it into natural language and say, oh, I was having terrible problems with my C word. It's going to leak into our lives. Siri and Alexa and so forth have made children ruder. Because they just demand things from the computer and do not have to say please and thank you. And it's been noted in journals and research that that's the case. And I also wonder if English will become confined to a certain level and will stop developing, because it's the only way in which it can be used. And as that becomes more and more important, I think that our language might ossify.
So I always say, I sort of tell my kids, I always say thank you to Alexa and see when I ask them something, because when the robot uprising happens, they'll remember.
It's open elevators.
When artificial intelligence turns up, it will check through all the old YouTube clips. Those are busy computers and we're in trouble. We are genuinely in trouble.
Those Boston Dynamics scientists are getting killed first, I imagine. Keep them in a robot.
As they can dance and radio.
We've got Ready Player One, filmed in Birmingham, which is VR, which is growing and becoming a bigger thing. Was it called Armadacon? Was it last year or the year before? They had that demonstrated VR in every region.
Yeah. The last time we were actually here. Yeah. Yeah, the last year we were actually here. Yeah.
Well, whatever. In the past, for VR, that was extraordinary. When you look down off a tall building, I couldn't do it. I was standing in the VR, I was holding a chair, one of these chairs, like this, and I could not move myself forward to the down. That's extraordinary. So we've got Star Trek's Holodeck, which I suppose is the next kind of prediction of technology and the way it will go. It does exist in real life. That must be very foolish from the outside. And I want to talk about Mandalorian. We know how the Mandalorian is filmed in this studio thing called the Volume. So you can see him walking across, that's a bit of a set, and everything else behind him. You can kind of see where the edges of the screens are. And they've got screens mostly all the way around. And I lost the picture that I wanted to talk about, which was an interior set. Between Mandalorian talking to somebody who's getting a steel, best car steel from the place. And one of the columns in the room is real, we built it in the set. The one next to it is fake. And you cannot tell them apart at all. It's just astonishing, the scenery that they're doing. And that's the holodeck that's coming into existence. Trying to say that. The next thing we've got is waving hands. And that's, you put your hands up and you're waving around. It's the current thing to do. I have a third picture here, which was the discovery of the badges, display something.
Are you really sure that's far too much? That's quite, ergonomically, that's really bad. Doing
Yeah,
this.
that's a nightmare, isn't it? You're doing that all the time.
Yeah, so
That's shoulder pain, wrist pain.
Yeah.
It's,
So that's right. I don't think that's just ergonomically a nightmare.
I think the bottom one is the card, isn't it? Where it,
Yeah.
yeah, that's Picard.
Yeah.
But they're all doing it now. All got these radios about what do the actors do.
I don't know.
I don't think there's nobody doing that in technology for people.
No. I mean, you kind of get some hologram, but not for you to touch them. I wouldn't know how to do the back card thing. You know, you've got sort of projection. But I could do that because I think I've been, you know, bad enough when you use the keyboard, the mouse, but...
Yeah, on your phone, if you have things to do.
True, yeah. But we're not doing it for there.
No, obviously not in there, no.
Yeah.
I don't think this will happen.
No.
Even if you could invent it, I don't think it's a usable device. I mean, if you're all sitting there, I know you're all very carefully taking notes about what I say. Imagine if you're doing that and you're you're on a train.
The nearest the Nintendo Wii.
There's a system that came out about 4 years ago. It's a little box that sits in front of your screen. And it lets you do that. It recognises gestures in mid-air. But it has to be right in front of the screen so you know where to move to.
Did anybody else get one of those projected keyboards? You could get a projected keyboard.
Let's argue about that at the end. I have a little reading I wanted to do. I'm not entirely convinced I've got time, but shall we go for it? Dawn, would you like to lead the other half? You're green. This is from iPhone. The character I am playing is the phone, but he's now an avatar in a virtual world. It's late evening here in Wonderful World. The sun is setting, and a beautiful array of circular lens defects creates a magnificent display in the sky. I walk across the open space towards a search wall. You can find anything and everything here. Friends, groups, activities, jobs, opportunities, special interests, adverts, more adverts, even more adverts, spam, and of course pornography. The wall consists of scrolling, jumping, popping up, floating, zipping, subtitled, surtitled, overtitled, hinted, static, and animated notices. I raise my finger and swat away the spam. Going through this via point and press will take a long time, so I download the Dexterity app and scan its help file. Basically, it's an extension of the standard VR menu system, expanding the usual symbol function with another 31 hand shapes, each with its own mnemonic. It's backward compatible to the graphical user interface days of the physical mouse. A simple raised index finger, Dex 8, is known as point. It can be used to select the menus as before. I put my right hand as a fist, or Dex 0, and raise my little finger to form Dex 1, pinky. Then I try Dex 2. Dex 2, ring. Dex 3 is both fingers, leg, and then I ripple rapidly through all the other hand signs to Dex 31, hand or palm. The raised digit is the Dex number, as it were binary digits. For clarification, Dex 8, point, is 0, 1, 0, 0, 0. It's just a touch forward to activate an option. I start. Dex 4, right click. Dex 9, horns. Dex 14, scout. Dex 16, thumb, and so on. I'm looking for information about underground VR entertainment sites, and I realise this is going to take too long. So I download the extended Dexterity app. this gives me effectively a 10-bit palette. So 1024-bit symbols. I start using both the index fingers and my right thumb as dex 88, two fat ladies. Then both thumbs and my right index fingers, dex 57, or Bs. My speed increases to a factor of 32, but it's still too slow. I download the overextended dexterity app, allowing different handshakes, so that I can separate dex 31 hand into paper and Spock. So fist, Spock, thumbs down, point, point, tick, okay, point, okay. Although complicated, it is straightforward and extremely effective. Bunny, wolf, butterfly, scout, bio, pay, flicks, people, moose. Hyper overextended dexterity adds small movements. I use wave, which is paper moved side to side, to let the noticeable know I've upgraded again. So I wipe, thumb, grip, generate a workspace, then pinch, flick, squeeze.
Excuse me, sir or madam, you seem to be doing that extremely effectively.
Yes, I agree. With the floating screen that has come up behind me, it scans my hand. A beam of ethereal light that fails to highlight a stamp. It knows that I have not been passed by a Turing test yet.
Are you a bot?
No, I say, persuading myself that I'm really a phone and not a bot, so technically this isn't a lie, but I don't appear to have a problem with that at all.
Humans are not capable of making those handshakes, sir or madam.
Well, I beg to differ. According to Wikipedia, fingers have this range of movement.
Yes, theoretically, but humans can't actually do it in practice.
Surely not. If that were the case, then why would they create the Dexterity User Interface System?
They didn't. It was invented by a phone.
Really?
Yes, a Trans-Juliet iPhone.
Oh, excellent phone. Very last month, but it had a lot of interesting features.
Perhaps you could tell me pi squared.
9.86960401089354486188344909998762.
I see you're a standard calculator app.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realise you wanted it more accurate.
No matter, you are a bot.
No, I have my phone here with me in my real bedroom. I used it for the calculation.
Yes, sir or madam. Now, sir or madam, perhaps you could read these words for me and type them into my keyboard.
On its screen, two blobs like squished spiders appear, and below a QWERTY keyboard flows from nothing. It's a straightforward captcha, a trap for me as I have no idea what these words are. The letters, for I assume that this is what they are smudged, with sections missing and other marks added to join them all together. Pattern recognition requires proper contrast around each character. I need to solve this, so perhaps it would be best if I approach it methodically.
If you would, sir or madam, reaction time is a factor in this.
Of course. Is that an A?
No.
A lowercase a?
No.
Is it a B?
No.
Is it in the ASCII character set?
Yes.
How many guesses do I get?
Sir or madam has 3 guesses.
How many do I have left?
The test is case sensitive, sir or madam. So you have had 2 guesses. You have 1 left for the whole world.
Thank you for clarifying the test policy. I look at the blots again. You have to buy the book if you want to know what happens next. But that's my point. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's basically Sci-Fi.
Yeah, if you're not going to use voice control, why don't you just use an actual sign language? You know?
They should teach it in school.
Yeah.
They teach it in nursery school.
There is a course of jacking in. No, forget all this interface business, just wire yourself straight up. Elon Musk is working on this, is he not? Who here would go for this? Who here would absolutely not go for this?
Absolutely not.
No.
I've got one, doesn't know. Can you imagine it? When it comes to that time when Windows upgrades?
Ransomware.
I was thinking vegan words.
Ransomware. Someone's going to hijack your brain.
Viruses.
Yes, pay this money and then I'll encrypt your brain.
Have you ever heard of the program without a tongue?
What happens if I get a migraine and accidentally start nuclear war?
This, in Sharda, is possibly the best computer interface going, or rather not Sharda, because that's just a button. But in the reimagining of Sharda, which was Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, they have a TARDIS in there, although it's not called a TARDIS, copyright reasons, Professor Crotus is a Time Lord. And it works by having this table with some objects on it. You come up to the table and you work out how you would control a time machine with these objects. And then you move the objects around on the table, and the AI works out what you meant and does that. Which brings us.
So if you use the table to have your lunch on, you accidentally end up in the Jurassic.
No, it does what you meant.
Right.
Effectively, the keyboard was one button saying, do what I need. That's all you need. Coming rapidly on to Moore's law, which I'm sure you're aware of, that microchips, or the power microchips, doubled every 2 years. What is fascinating, this was done by a bloke called Gordon Moore in 1965. There's Moore's second law, which is the cost of computing power to the consumer. As the cost of computing power to the consumer falls, the cost of producers to fulfill Moore's law goes in the opposite direction. So at some point it will fall apart. But it has kept going all this century and the latter half of the second century. If you follow Moore's law back in time, to Victorian times, you get mechanical calculators. And that you can work out how many bits per second they can do, and it fits this line. So this has been going on now for 120 years, which is just astonishing, really. Because it's not a law, there's no reason for it that we can see, but it does seem to be the case. People are saying that we're reaching the limit with chips, where the transistors are now measured inside of the number of atoms that they've got.
Also, tunneling collectors.
Yeah. So you can't make something smaller than one atom because it's not a thing. But there's quantum computing coming in. As far as we can make out, quantum computing does all the possible calculations that you could do at once and gets the right answer. So that's cryptography done instantly. It would be an astonishing change if it happens. And you can just make them physically bigger. The computers, why can't the chip be the size of a room? Right, let us pray. Hands together. Right, push it down slightly so you feel the tension in your wrists moving here. This is carpal tunnel syndrome. You put it up like this, and you put it out, so you're sort of stretching in like that, pushing out. And then up. Very important to get your office space working. There are a bunch of rules about this sort of thing. There's the 90-90-90 rule. So if I'm working at a computer desk, my knees should be at 90 degrees, feet on the floor, 90 degrees here, 90 degrees my elbows. That's your optimum condition. That's for the lumbar support. So the 90-90-90.
So those of us who write with a laptop on the sofa,
are bad. At the end of the talk, we'll all point at you and go,
You only say if.
For the 20-20-20 rules, every 20 minutes, you should spend at least 20 seconds looking at something 20 feet away to rest your eyes, not having to focus this close. And we've got a couple of things on this, and so talking about the difference between focused vision and panoramic vision, which somebody mentioned in this part of the room earlier. We have two different modes in our brains of operating. So we have focus, with focus on a task, and eyes focus on it. And then we'll go for a walk, and our eyes start to switch to a panoramic view, which looks at sort of the periphery and so forth. And and it affects the brain chemistry. It takes out a lot of adrenaline and other hormones of that ilk. And they're finding people suffering from a lot more stress because they'll go to a meeting and they'll focus on what they're doing, they'll focus, and then leave the meeting. They pick up their phone, they focus on their phones, and they're not going to panoramic viewing. So they're not getting rid of the hormones in their brain, which is why people are getting more and more stressed. So 2020, take a bit of a break and look at a distant object, have a bit of a walk.
Dave, it takes more processing power as well. The type of 3D you're doing with the 2 eyes stereoscopic vision takes vastly more processing power than the peripheral vision type.
They've noticed an increase in stress levels due to this since 2010 in phones came. And then we've got the 50-50 rule, which is what I'm trying to invent. So it's not quite as good as the other ones, but every 50 minutes, go for 50 paces at least 50 feet away, or something like that. It's a work in progress, but get up from your desk and walk around.
Every 15 minutes, 50 cups of tea.
Then you'll have to go.
And I'll let you work out what the other 50s.
Michael Mosley, who does all these How to Be Healthy programs, talks about every hour stand up for 2 to 3 minutes. So what I'm trying to say to you all is work out and get your office environment fitted properly. This is my office where I do my writing. That's my desk, my computer.
The trouble is, in reality, David, it doesn't happen.
That's my computer. That's my screen, that's my keyboard. That's my in tray. Future keyboards. I just typed it into Google and these are the sort of images you get. Very interesting that is a steampunk keyboard using an ergodox. More of that later. That's from Blade Runner 2049. You see how it's a split keyboard with thumb controls and so forth. This awful picture is a mechanical keyboard with all the Star Trek colours. So it's forward, aft, forward and starboard buttons, but you can't even talk. That's all the pictures that die, I'm afraid. So, let's go through the keyboard. This is the old style QWERTY keyboard. A lot of people say it's designed to slow people down, which is not true. This is designed to keep common letters on opposite hands so that the arms that flip up don't jam. Because it's jams that slow you down because you've got one jam it and all the rest of it. There's your standard QWERTY keyboard. It's staggered, so this row is moved along one from the previous row and back, again to stop the arms from crashing into each other. And it's been replaced by that keyboard, or a keyboard of that ilk, and it's got the same kind of row staggered arrangement there. So if we pop our hand in, oddly enough, the right hand works. There's indexing on the home key, and then you go up to the U and down to N, I think it is. So if your hand comes in from that direction, it works really well. The left hand is the one that suffers all the problems with your wrist and so forth, because that comes in at an angle to the F, but it's got to go to the R. And then down here, it's just awkward. That's where you get wrist problems. Really, you have to twist your wrist around. So it's like that. And that's a very awkward position to be in. Therefore, the argument is that you would go for an ortholinear keyboard. These are in columns. Your finger is a straight object. No, mine's actually thin, but it's a straight object, so you want your columns in a line. This would be a shoulder strain, but you just step forward. So you've got shoulder strain, you split your keyboard into two. No longer you punch in this direction, but you force your hands out and in a much better position. Then you need to tilt them slightly to bring them in, like this one. And then we want to add thumb clusters. The most extraordinary thing is on a proper normal keyboard, this keyboard for example, this is your most dexterous digit, your thumb. There's amazing things. And we use it for pressing the space bar and nothing else. And this is our second dexterous, if you want to have the second dexterous digit you have. And this is used for pressing the same space bar. So you create thumb clusters. So you have a space and a return, backspace, and whatever you want. And you've got a lot more ability to press buttons. It's the next bit of it. Then you tilt it upwards, because if you put your hands down on the desk, they're sort of vertical like that. So it's an effort to turn, rotate your wrists to do that. Put your wrists on straight. So you tilt your keyboard up. Technically you should go vertically, but that would be quite weird. And then finally, you need to make it flash.
No, bad for the eyes.
In all of these mechanical keyboards, which is what I'm talking about, they talk about flashing lights for most of what they're talking about. You know, they will spend like 5 minutes on all its ergonomic, etc., and then they'll go, you can make it flash and a ripple effect. So what do we have? Here's a few exciting keyboards. The Keyboardio is apparently a very, very good one. I've never used one, but it looks fantastic. That's the Kinesis Advantage, which has got keyboard wells, so your fingers go into a well, and that reduces the distance you have to move from one row to the next. Then there's the Maltron, which has a one-handed version. So that's a one-handed keyboard. We'll do a two-handed version. This is the one that's gone for a keyboard being vertical. So that keyboard is vertical to the orientated, and it has ring mirrors, so you can see what you're doing.
Or she could throw her eyes outside with like
This keyboard, you put your hand inside it. So each finger can press down, or you can flick it up, down, or either side. So each finger can do 5 keys. And here's another version that does the same sort of thing, again with the keypad. So this was my weapon of choice. If the pen is mightier than the sword, this was my machine gun for a long period of time. The Ergodox K350, which is slightly ergonomic, slightly bent round. I tried for a number of months to start to use a gamepad next to it for my cursor movements and so forth, but I never really got that to work properly. Here are a bunch of other keyboards. So that's the old Ergodox K350. That's the Expo keyboard, which is again slightly split on a single element. I've tried that one out. This one is a
Gold Touch.
Gold Touch, which is split. Really bizarre, this one, because they split it, but you've still got your left hand trying to go around the corner probably. Very strange. So this is my current rabbit hole. There we go. That's an Ergodox keyboard. So you can move the pieces to the right place that you want. You put your hand in there, you've got your thumb clusters and so forth. You can tilt it to any angle you can wish. I found that the Ergodox wasn't quite enough keys for me. So I've got a 9 keyboard here. There's certain special keys, and I've got my cursor keys on the keyboard. So a 9 and a 4, which I needed. That wasn't quite good enough, so I got like a 46 keyboard one to lay out, and then for the cursor keys. I've since doing that, I've actually got the cursor keys back on this keyboard as a step in the right direction, or right direction. And it's fully customizable. So you can swap any key with any other key. I do a lot of writing with dialogue. So I put my apostrophe and double quotes underneath my little finger. I press that considerably more often than I do the colon and the semicolon. I just swap those around. That's a backspace and that's a delete key. and the other keyboard has a delete key as well. I had 6 different ways of getting to double quotes because I set it on the way I was doing it. Dawn called it pencil sharpening. Shiny Sabato will try and reconfigure my keyboard. This is the map of my current keyboard. It is not good news that you need a piece of paper in front of you to tell where your keys are. And I've since moved this 46 one on its side. I've got a character in the book that I like at the moment, Carly, who I've got a special key for her. It's extraordinary what you can do. So there are really 2 schools of thought currently in this. One is to go for as few keys as you possibly can. That's an example of that case. So various keys switch you to a different layer. We're all used to the shift key taking you to the shift layer, control T taking you to the control layer. You can have any number of layers with cursor keys, brackets, whatever you want. So this chap's layer 2, which has got all the brackets on the right-hand side. And the other idea is to go for more keys. So this is the key mouse. So you put your hand on here, and you can type in the keys here. But then you went berserk and put the keys around here and no keys here. You don't have enough keys. Right. Also, you've got software side. So I've used auto hotkey, which takes a key press that you do and changes it to something else. So on my Ergoducts, I've got a square key, which sends to the division F15, which is turned by auto hotkey into Control F, does find. Right? My round one, F24, Control C, copy. I've got a word web key, sends an F1, which auto hotkey turns into Control Alt W, which launches word web, which is a thesaurus program. I've got a key which is a dash, F15, which turns into an Alt N, which runs a macro to insert an N dash, because I use a lot of N dashes in what I'm writing. I've got a key which is a dash and end quotes, sends an F15, which auto-hotkey turns into an Alt N double quotes left, backspace right, 1, enter. And this runs the N dash macro and then puts 2 double quotes in before cursoring left to delete the first one, which is always wrong word, gets it around, and then goes to the end of the line and waiting to return for an interruption. I mean, what could be simpler? You may have guessed this rabbit hole just goes on and on. To try and make things more efficient, you get more and more complicated. Do I think that I now have the perfect computer system for inputting? No. No. I don't, not at all. Because I want this. Do you remember the voyage home when Spock came and did the test?
Yes.
But he was using this keyboard. And this is a chording keyboard. So you put your hands on there and you press more than one key at once. Note the 3 thumb buttons there. Chording was invented in 1968 in the mother of all demos. This was the demonstration that was done by Douglas Engelbert, that first demonstrated touch screens, mouse, hypertext, windows, all sorts of things. And it demonstrated a chording keyboard. So 5 keys, if you press 5 keys, you can get just 32 codes out of that, so you can do the alphabet. So the stenography, which is quite clever. The left hand does the start of the word, and the right hand does the end of the word at the same time. But the one that I'm familiar with is the Microwriter, invented by the director Simon Field of Zulu. So you just put your hand on and you press more than one key, so A, B, C. The Microwriter became the agenda. I wanted to buy an agenda, so I built myself one, a prop up in wood. So I could carry around, see if I could carry such a thing as this in my pocket. Now we have phones, it's absolutely ludicrous. agenda here, that we also see. There it is, very much to the side key. These didn't work. That was a brick-shaped object, it's so heavy. This clever device but was competing with Sign Organizer. Didn't happen. This is a bit too spongy to use, and we have to turn a phone round so that the infrared can be used, which is kind of ludicrous. But it is kind of, I mean, I learned this in the 1980s, my hand still remembers it. Here are all the codes, and you just remember the shape of the letter. That gives you enough to work out what keys you're supposed to press. Another two
Well, if you
things.
put 7 together, you get Stargate.
You can do numbers, you can do punctuation. A fantastic system. So there are the different versions. So this is the tap keyboard. When you wear it, you bang the desk. Doesn't quite work. There's a twiddler. That's the frog pad. They're all the same sort of. That's the back keyboard we've got both. So that's very like Star Trek. And you can see it's almost a Star Trek colours. Almost a giggle. Power chord keyboard. And this one I just thought looked really elegant. And 5 keys. There are versions on tablets. So again, you're recording, but you're just using your tablet computer. And then here's the key mouse, where you can press any button here and move it around. That was a chording keyboard and a mouse at the same time. I think that would be the most powerful way of doing it. So, the only thing that remains is to build one. Here is the one that I am doing. That's all I've got. Probably got the cables and the bits and pieces and so forth. So that's what I would like. 2 chording keyboards. What would be the mouse and what would be move the cursor keys? And I think that would be fantastic powerful. And that's what I would like to do. And to go kind of full circle to building props, here it is. Made out of wood, doesn't do anything. But this is what I would like. You know, you put your hand on the white keys, you can get any code you wish, and move it around as a mouse. And that's my prediction for the best. No, we won't do it because we'll stick to the great key. But that is my idea. Thank you very much. And any questions? I've given 3 minutes a little while ago, so I've rattled through rather quickly. Are there any questions?
Yeah, with the advent of Swipe and SwiftKey, I use nothing but Swipe and SwiftKey for most of the documents that I produce because it is so quick and intuitive. So I don't know whether now that that technology is available, people want additional hardware keyboards.
Do you do something with phone or tablet?
Phone or tablet.
And you find it a good
Yeah. Extremely fast.
With just your thumbs or?
No, with one fingers. You trace the letters?
Yes, I use swipe myself.
Yeah, with one finger.
I question whether that is as good as a proper mechanical key.
Because that's like learning an instrument, basically, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, I've been using this so often that I came here and I brought my netbook and I could not remember when to put my fingers away. And I was constantly, if I made a mistake, I was constantly hitting the space bar to try to delete something. Programmed these 2 thumbs and different things.
But I just use one finger
Yeah,
for it, so I can't.
question. I mean, everybody should use something they're used to, obviously. I do question whether that is as comfortable long term.
Well, when I first started using Swipe, it was on an Android phone, and I really liked it so much. I was quite frustrated that there wasn't an Apple version, but now there's an Apple version that's even better, and it's really quick and really, it's been a bit of a lifesaver. It's so quick.
Are people familiar with Swipe? Swipe gives you a keyboard and you move A and D. Let go, it's out.
But I don't even have to, I mean, I know where all letters are on the Swipe keyboard, because I learned touch typing originally, and I can touch type, but I went, and I thought that's just so convenient, so quick, and it does what it does.
Yeah. Well, again, you can explain what the interface is. Pretty interesting to do. It'd be interesting to have one of those really custom.
I think you can.
Because there's letters you might not you want all the letters, but the bits of punctuation you might want to get closer to.
Yeah, for umlauts and different things, you just swipe up from the letter and it gives you the options of the different versions. Yeah.
Great. Anything else?
Just a quick observation. As of this month, the first AI card for home computers has been released. It's the size of a graphics card, plugs into the same slot, gives you about much power as most of the facial recognition computers already. So, as demonstrated in the program, you about 40 pictures, they could train this thing in about 2 minutes. Where they did the same thing with a home computer, and it took just over 2.5 weeks.
You plug one of these in and then you just move your eyebrows and then you can type.
No, this is basically, you could train it to do that, but being an AI, you've got to train it first.
Okay. I think that's extraordinary, isn't it? I remember trying to buy my first BBC Microwriter. It was a 32K model and a 64K model. What do I need that extra 32K for?
That's what they thought as well. That's why they thought most people would buy the 32. And then surprised most people got the 64.
Yeah, I know. He's done that. I have to finish now, but if you want to chat to me about it further in the bar, please do so. I believe the raffle is now more important than I am.
Please put your hands together for David Boyd.